Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to season 27, episode 61 in the book of Revelation. Today's title is God Making Choices. We've been transitioning in the book of Revelation. Actually, today's the big transition from an era where people make choices and beasts make choices and dragons and cities and the great prostitute makes choices. And now we're going to find that God is going to be making some choices. So the choices that the evil arrayed against the Lord, it's been misdirected. Sometimes it's directed at God's people. Sometimes it's directed at God Himself. This has been, as of yesterday, a unified voice of evil against the Lord. And certainly they have seemed powerful until we're going to find out here today that they're not going to be powerful. They seem to be authoritative until the authority is taken away, and it seems to be permanent until they're revealed as temporary. So this is in Revelation chapter 17. And I'm going to start in verse 15. The angel said to me, "The waters you saw where the prostitute is seated are peoples and multitude and nations and languages. And the 10 horns you saw, they and the beast will," and here's the turn now, "will hate the prostitute." Earlier on, they loved the prostitute. "They will make her desolate, naked, and devour her flesh, and burn her with fire." And this is how he does it, verse 17. "For God has put it into their hearts to carry out His purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled." Verse 18, "And the woman you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth." So don't miss this. This is first of all, God is protecting a group of people. We won't talk about that, but the faithful people are still secure. They're still seen. They're still selected and steady with the Lord, and they're shoulder to shoulder with Him. And in their alignment with the Lord is going to make them conquerors. Okay, that's enough about the good people. I want to talk mostly about the evil people today because it's a specific and unique moment where the unity that has been up to this point, 17 chapters in the book of Revelation, there's been unity of opposition to God. And now, the old saying, "A house divided cannot stand." Now we're going to see that the house of evil is going to be divided. So the 10 horns are these 10 kings, and they have unified this somehow world authority and aligned themselves with the beast. So they have been, as of yesterday, one mind and handed over power and authority to the beast. In my mind, that was actually a pretty good definition of worshiping. But today, it changes, and now they hate the prostitute, this Babylon, this city. And this is the representation of affection that's directed in opposition to God. It's associated with both spiritual and sexual infidelity. This person, a city, this system of affection that is allured against the God. And a short time ago, she rode in on the scarlet beast, on the Antichrist. So the affections and the powers were all aligned together. But now the world's authority and the beast turn on the great prostitute. So everybody up to this point, other than faithful people who would not worship the beast, those are the good Christians, have been aligned against God Himself. And now a heart is changed, and they are now against each other. So God starts to exude His choices. So everybody gets a choice, and now we find God gets a choice. He gets dominion. He gets His judgment. And the satanic alliance is now broken. So God uses sovereignly His enemies to carry out His purposes. The powers of evil will now more clearly serve the purposes of God. So this judgment and punishment and destruction of others of His enemies is done by certain of His enemies. So the enemies of His church are being used by God to destroy the enemies of His church. So if the prostitute represents this beguiling influence, and then the beast's military power is now directed against it. So how does God do this alliance breaking? Well, they're going to be walking around one day and God's going to put it in their hearts. In other words, they're going to say, hey, this seems like a good idea. So the Lord made everything. He made the angels. He made the angelic mind. He made the mind of people. Currently, the fall is evident in the mind. You see it every day. There's disordered thinking. There's depression. There's mental illness. And here, God is flipping a few switches inside the beast's and the king's mind to help change the angel and the demons and the people's mind. So God is sovereign over the mind. That's one of the big points here. And I think in a good way, too. John 6:44 says that no one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draw him, and I will raise him up on the last day. So God is sovereign positively over the mind. And I think God can put his thumb on the scale of our mind for good. I always think of the passage in 2 Corinthians 6:6. In a favorable time I have listened to you, and in a day of salvation I have helped you. So our salvation, a lot of it relies on our decision, and that's certainly a part of it. And then there's this God part. So generally, God allows us sovereignty over our minds, and certainly he holds us accountable for it. But ultimately, God is sovereign over the mind. And God allows the fall to affect our minds now. And God can help turn our minds when he wishes. And God can turn, and even in the face of epic evil, God can put his sovereignty over these evil entities. So he can use their will and use it for his ultimate purposes. So God has put it in their hearts to execute his purposes. And in the final analysis, the powers of evil serve the purposes of God. That's from Constable's commentary. So everybody gets a choice now. And now we see in the book of Revelation here, chapter 17, God is finally beginning to make choices. And ironically, his choice is to change the choices that some of the evil powers that are aligned against him, that they get to make. So before the day when God uses his choice to direct your choice, let us devote ourselves and let's make good, aligned, worshipful, and leaned in choices towards God today. Thanks for listening.